Depend them.
$5,000. Don't play yourself.
I first heard about Ramon Abbas when he was arrested. It was a pretty big international news story. He was arrested in Dubai, and he was very quickly extradited to the US.
Ramon Abbas, also known as Hush Puppy, was responsible for a number of business email compromise scams.
But what he was most known for was being an Instagram influencer. He built a following of millions of people, and it was always very mysterious where his money actually came from.
According to the affidavit, he was charged with $30 million worth of fraud.
Hush Puppy is the #1 Yahoo boy in Nigeria. He's a role model to every Yahoo boy in Nigeria.
There are ways to look at Hush Puppy not as some kind of hero, but you can respect some of the things that he did and the way that he thrived in our current online social media ecosystem. One of the things people would ask me was, why did he post to Instagram? Like, he should have just kept a low profile. My answer ultimately was, why do you post on social media? I mean, he was doing it for the same reasons we all do it, to get some response from people, to feel his place in the world grow and be respected.
G for Gucci, you know?
When you look at the story from one layer, it's very simplistic, but the deeper you get into it, the more you see the complexities around how someone like Hush Puppy exists in the modern world. Ramon grew up in a neighborhood of Lagos called Oron Shoki. It's a bit of a hardscrabble neighborhood. His father drove a taxi, his mother sold bread and other foods on the street. By his own account, he always looked to sort of the ritzier areas of Lagos as a kind of dreamer, and he wanted to have more for himself.
Today we have an exclusive inside look at the internet scam that has been sweeping this country, based out of Nigeria.
When the internet arrived, late 90s, early 2000s, in places like Ramon Abbas's neighborhood, people would go down to the internet cafe. And one of the things that Nigerians discovered when they logged on was that oftentimes there was sort of a reputation that preceded them online. They were already viewed as being scammers because of the 419 scams of the 80s and 90s, which were basically either phone or fax or letter scams. This coincided as well with more difficult economic times within Nigeria, fewer job prospects, and so there was a community who sort of embraced that label, who decided, okay, I will figure out how to make money online, I will figure out how to take advantage of people, and they're actually incredibly innovative.
It started, as it almost always does, with an email.
There was a community of young boys who became known as Yahoo boys based on the free email accounts that were available for this type of scamming. I spoke to a criminologist in Nigeria, Adedeji, who he spent a lot of time with Yahoo boys, and he actually lived for a time among them to study them, to understand their motivations, to understand their techniques, to see what became of them over time, and he knew a lot of the same people in Ramon's circle.
I had a very good relationship with them because I saw them as human beings. He was very popular in the slums, areas like Bariga, Ajegunle, Ijora, Mushin, because these are places where you have a lot of young boys who have very little life chances. Hush Puppy, Ramon Abbas. At that time, he was one of the very smart boys. He went very far. He met a lot of people who could help him improve on the skills of cybercrime, knowing that the kind of cybercrime we had in Nigeria in the early days was close to the 419, the letter scam.
He moved from Nigeria to Malaysia, and at the time in particular, there was a sort of exodus of Yahoo boys from Nigeria to Malaysia. There are a variety of theories about why they moved there. the possibility that it was a little more lax, that the Nigerian government was paying a little more attention at that time, also because there was more sophisticated internet architecture there in terms of how you could hide the location that your requests were coming from.
He moved closer to where he could have access to all of the tools. He wanted more information than what every other person had, and that was why he became what most of them did not become.
It seems like he was connected to several different flavors of scams, one of which was business email compromise, which is the most lucrative internet scam that exists.
Well, today, one of the largest scams attacking end users is called the business email compromise. The business email compromise seems really, really sophisticated. And during my career, I've dealt with hundreds of these incidents. The bad guys are able to compromise an email account of a business. Could be a small business, could be a large business, and it involves financial transactions.
You have a company, and the company is going to be targeted by the scammers. And usually they'll research the company. They're trying to find the right person. And what they do is a hacker gets access to someone's email account. So usually middle manager or someone in the accounting department of a company. Once they're in the email, they don't actually do anything. They just sit there and they wait. And they watch the flow of email in and out. And when they see invoices, that's what they're looking for. When an invoice comes in, they might spoof the email of the sender of the invoice, mock up a fake invoice that looks exactly like the one that just came in, and then send a follow-up email saying, this was not the correct bank account information, this is the new bank. So if the financial department is not looking carefully, then they are prone to sending the money right out the door. That's essentially what BEC scams are. Someone asked for this money who's not the right person, and you sent them millions of dollars.
Spend 20,000 you, okay? 20,000.
I just spent 20,000.
Ramon had picked up the handle Hush Puppy in, I think, 2012. But it was really when he got to Malaysia that he started posting photos, mostly of himself. It was a kid from Lagos on the rise. Here are the luxury brands that I'm now consuming. And he started mixing that with a kind of self-help mantras and a sort of prosperity gospel, the hustle. His followers started sort of ticking up over time. And then Hush Puppy began a friendship with Momfa, who's a very, very well-known influencer in Nigeria. And Momfa lived in Dubai. That seems like the time when he started to see that there was another level of opulence. There was another tier of lifestyle that he could be living. And so he packed up for Malaysia, moved himself to Dubai. When he moved to Dubai, he really entered this world of truly high wealth individuals, which included obtaining a penthouse apartment, closets full of designer clothes, shelves of unopened sneakers that had only been made once, sneakers that had been made specifically for him, and a basement parking garage that was full of cars like Ferraris, Bentleys. He's sometimes now flying on private planes. He's one of the guests of honor at the Formula One race. He's being invited to big events in Dubai. And so he's kind of entered this upper crust of some of the most wealthy people in the world.
Everything you want to talk about now, Hush Puppy. Yeah, Hush Puppy do this, Hush Puppy do that. You shall leave me alone. Talk about yourself.
The difference between Hush Puppy and the other Yahoo boys is the fact that he went international. Then he went to the social media to show off all of these things. But as per recklessness, they are all reckless. Even those who are not on the international scenes are also reckless. That's the way they live.
So Hush Puppy's 37th birthday, it was all kind of, at that moment, it felt like it was really coming together for Hush Puppy. And he posted about that. He posted about how far he had come. While that birthday celebration was happening, the sort of seeds of Hush Puppy's downfall had already kind of been sown.
Well, he made the cardinal sin in organized crime. He flaunted his wealth. He brought a lot of attention to himself. He made himself appear to be a national hero. But when you are out there and you are flaunting all of this information, there's so much open source intelligence that he was just providing about himself.
The FBI arrested a Canadian money launderer, and his name was Ghalib Al-Amari. When they arrested Al-Amari, he had a phone on him in which there were contacts for Hush Puppy, and there were message exchanges with Hush Puppy. What they came to believe was that Al-Amari and Hush Puppy were sort of part of a loosely networked group of people who were committing BEC scams and moving the money around the world. Oftentimes, there would be hackers who would hack into the email accounts, and the FBI later concluded these were North Korean state-sponsored hackers who had actually committed billions of dollars worth of crime around the world over the past 10 years. Al-Amari would connect up with Hush Puppy, ask him if he had any bank accounts, and when a big BE score was about to happen, Hush Puppy would provide a bank account that could receive millions of dollars that were about to be transferred out of a company. The crimes that they were accused of included the large-scale hacking of a bank in Malta for $13 million, a BEC scam on an American law firm for just under $1 million. The biggest one was an attempted BEC scam on 2 UK companies, both of which were for around $100 million, and one of which was an English Premier League football team. In early June, June 8th, Hush Puppy was asleep upstairs on the second floor of his apartment. There was a bang on the door, and then suddenly the apartment was full of people with guns. At first he thought they were victims of an armed robbery, but then it quickly turned out it was the Dubai SWAT team, and they had come in fully kitted up. They were ready for war. He was whisked onto a plane within, I think, 24 to 48 hours and sent to the US.
If you are to classify Hush Puppy, how would you classify him?
Busted.
I give a lot of credit to the FBI agents who arrested Hush Puppy, but we are not going to arrest our way out of this problem. We took one bad guy off the streets, but how many more of them are out there? I think even though we believe Mr. Abbas is a major player in this, he's only a bit player in the entire infrastructure of the complete organization.
There are just so many actors and so many elements in these schemes, including organized crime in places like Russia, in places like Brazil, that it's really, really hard to make a dent, I think, in the power of the BEC scam. To me, one of the tragedies of this whole situation is that because of the reputation of scamming in Nigeria, law enforcement there, particularly with the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, they ended up using scammers and Yahoo boys as just a pretext.
All of a sudden, they're on the streets arresting every young guy for being involved in cybercrime without any evidence. They just pack a group of young boys, they force them to say a lot of things, and then boom. It became one of the reasons why we had what we had in Nigeria last year.
For weeks now, there have been demonstrations against police brutality across Africa's most populous country. Protesters accuse the now disbanded Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or SARS, of torture.
They've been notorious for extrajudicial killings and harassment, especially of young Nigerians.
SARS in Nigeria was a big deal last year. A lot of lives were lost, and up to this moment, we are still trying to pacify young people. Cybercrime is not a problem of Nigeria or for Nigeria. It's a problem from every part of the world. We need a global cybercrime law. If we have a law, and we also have global law enforcement agencies, then we are moving towards managing cybercrime.